Hello there, and welcome back to the Disc Connected. Today's video is an interview with writer and director Sean Baker. Sean is one of my favorite modern directors. He made the films Tangerine, The Florida Project, Red Rocket, and a notable one that people are probably going to be discovering more and more over the coming months because it just got a Criterion release is the film Takeout. Sean wanted to come on here so we could discuss that amongst a lot of other things. Unfortunately, in the middle of this, there was some internet connectivity issues, and just wanted to give a little warning of that before we jump in. I think I saved most of the conversation, but there was a very small amount that had to be cut, unfortunately. Hopefully it's negligible and you barely notice. And it sounds like Sean's planning on coming back soon anyways, so we'll hear more from him. And in the meantime, after the intro, let's have a conversation with Sean Baker. I have the honor of sitting down today with Sean Baker, somebody I've admired for quite some time, and I'm just stoked you could carve out a little bit of time for me. Sean, how are we doing?
Great. And it's great to be on a show that I follow and listen to regularly. And very nice to meet you, Ryan. And
that is mind-boggling to hear.
No, I look to your show as my way of getting the newest news about releases and keeping me informed. You know, I'm a big physical media guy, and you're keeping me abreast. So thank you.
That means the world, and I love that we're doing this, and you're wearing a Vinegar Syndrome shirt. Are they somebody that you've been following for quite some time?
I am. I like this one the most out of all of them. I mean, sometimes I'm into their merch and sometimes I'm not, but this is a great one. This blue and
the color choice on that, yeah, it's perfect. I love it. Yeah. Vinegar Syndrome. What originally got you turned on to them?
Oh, it's interesting. I've known about them from probably their first or second year, and I connected with them. I know Joe Rubin over there, and they were nice enough to actually to scan the negative of my first film, 4-Letter Words, that'll be getting a release in 23. I can't tell you exactly with whom yet,
nice.
But it's going to be a nice one. And it happened years ago. I mean, it's taken this long with the restoration, but Joe did the 4K scan of my 35 millimeter negative, and we just kept in touch. And then his company kept growing and growing, and I became a yearly subscriber. And I look forward to every month getting my huge box. It's both a wonderful moment and also a very stressful moment, because as you know, it's like I have more films now in my home than I will probably ever be able to watch in the next. I'm thinking about, like, how can I even watch these in the next 5 years? I'm you know, it's a stressful thing, but I also love absolutely love the titles they're putting out there, the films they're restoring and getting to preserve. So I think they're doing God's work.
I completely agree. And the biggest thing for me is, again, like contextual special features. They are one of the best in the business, and it's something that's gotten lost in this era of streaming. And I'm glad that we're still getting not every title, but many of these mainstream titles will get stuff. And actually, this is perfect time to bring up Red Rocket. I was stoked, first of all, that it got a physical release at all. But Kat Ellinger is on the commentary for that. Was that something that you looked into, or was that just happenstance? Or
yep, I'm proud to say I made that happen. Nice. I love her commentaries. I love Kat. You know, I think she's just so incredibly intelligent and articulate that I just love hearing her speak about films. And I knew, because Red Rocket was so influenced by, you know, Italian sex comedies, that she knows a lot about.
Yep.
You'd be able to actually probably speak to the themes of the movie better than I can. Usually, sometimes filmmakers aren't very articulate about their own movies, and so when I told A24, I'm like, I'm not sure. I know she hasn't worked with you guys yet, but check her out. She's great. And A24 was completely down with it, and Kat gave this wonderful commentary. Yes. Yeah.
That would be incredible if they started making some of these real boutique commentators, something that was more of a regular in their stable. I would love to see that.
I agree.
All right. So the big thing this year, Takeout got this glorious Blu-ray release just fairly recently from Criterion. My biggest thing, just knowing how filmmakers are, somebody that's been in a Criterion Closet video, and now you have a Criterion release. How'd that feel?
I mean, it's still unbelievable. It's still mind-blowing to me that this little film that Xi and I made, Xi Zhou and I co-directed this film. This is my
Yeah.
sophomore film. And we made this back in 2003. It hit Slamdance in 2004 and did the circuit then. Didn't get an actual theatrical for 3 years. Three and a half years later, around 2008, it finally got its theatrical due to many reasons. I won't go into now. But you know, this little movie that just kept going, and we never wanted to just give up on it because we believed in it, and we realized that other people were believing in it. And then, you know, down the line, this was about 4 years ago now, because COVID slowed everything down.
Of course.
4 years ago, Criterion reached out to me, and they were interested in some of my titles, and Takeout being the first one. So we went through an extensive restoration process, and I'm talking like it really one of the most intensive restorations that I know about, because we went back to the original elements. Here's the disc, by the way. Yeah, it's still feels so weird to have
great to see though
the collection. But
yeah,
this movie was shot on mini DV tape, so that's standard definition mini DV. And it's US, so it's not PAL. It's you know, it's NTSC, so that was 2997 frame rate. So it had a very video look. We shot it for $3,000. Xi and I were basically the crew members. We're wearing every hat, with our lead actor Charles Jang essentially being our third crew member. Sometimes holding the room when he wasn't in a shot. And this film, you know, was basically went to Slamdance with me just like pressing export on my Final Cut Pro program, but knowing that it wasn't exactly how we wanted to present it to the world, but we had no money. So, you know, we always said, if we ever get the money, if we ever get the funds to do this right, we're going to do what we want, how we want this film to look. We want to make the film the way we want it to look and be presented. And that was more in lines with like the Dogma 95 films that would shoot, they shot PAL 25 frames a second, most of them. So it was a much easier translation to 24 frames a second. And then they would go out to film. So when we saw The Celebration or The Idiots in theaters, we'd be seeing, you know, a film out, which would really elevate the look and transform it into something that we always thought was more presentable and more cinematic.
Of course.
So all these years later, with Criterion coming on board and helping us with the cost of the restoration, we were able to do that. And we were able to basically change the frame rate from 2997 to 24. Then we were able to, you know, do a new color grade on it. We went out to film and then scanned that negative back in. And then we did a full new mix. So this is like this is the first time that anybody is seeing the film this way, in the way that and I always intended it to look. So yeah,
it's a new film essentially.
We didn't change the content, so I wasn't pulling a George Lucas on it. I'm not recutting it, but it is being presented to the world in just a way more polished way.
Wow. That, I mean, to get a second life like that, first of all, extremely rare, but beyond that, it's such a gift to somebody like you that has had that vision for so long, and it's great to see people willing to step in and make that move. I mean, I don't know, you know, you brought up The Celebration, and for stuff like that to be, I mean, first of all, The Celebration came out this year from Criterion as well. Wonderful happenstance. For you to get that second chance, it's again just a beautiful thing, and companies like Vinegar Syndrome and Criterion giving that gift to independent filmmakers from, you know, 60 plus years ago in some of these cases is astonishing to see.
Yeah, yeah, it's an incredible honor. It's an incredible honor. And yeah, I agree with you. Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, Arrow. I mean, like
Yeah.
so many of these incredible boutique labels out there. Cult Epics, putting out
Cult Epics is so
all
good.
the what one used to call sexploitation films, but they're
Yep.
actually really sophisticated, mostly Dutch, art house movies with sex in them. These are we're living in a great time where we get to see these films the way they were originally intended to be seen, and not like on crappy VHS. Yeah.
And in many cases, even better than they've ever been, projected in most of these theaters.
100%. It's funny. We watched, the 3D archives. They've been putting out
Yeah.
films yeah. Oh, I don't know do you know whether House of Wax, everything about the releases. Was House of Wax one of the 3D archive films, or was that
I
just done?
don't think so.
Right. That was like just under the
I
studio.
Yeah, I think that was all internal to the studio.
Right. Okay. But no matter what, it had present day 3D technology,
Yeah.
retrofitted to the movie. We watched it the other night on my 3D set. It looked amazing. It looks gorgeous. I mean, the 3D technology is just as good as Avatar, essentially. But what I was thinking the entire time was, it's wonderful, yet tragic that, the director of that film, and Vincent Price, and almost everybody attached to that film, because most of them have passed.
Yep.
They never even got to see their own movie in a way that we're able to now. We're
Right.
seeing it in a much more presentable way than even the filmmakers were able to see. So
Yeah, it's a very sad fact. I mean, a lot of these films I mean, to get to the blunt sad point, we're getting to an age where we're losing a lot of Hollywood greats. They all started coming up around the sad time, and it's a more common occurrence where every week we're hearing big names just suddenly pass away, and now a lot of them are getting love posthumously, and they're not going to be able to see these beautiful UHD, massive releases of some of their best cinematic works, and it's just sad to think, but it's great for future generations too.
I agree. It's really sad. Like, our heroes are dying just one after another. It's to the point where I've actually thought about just stop doing the rest in peace thing on Instagram,
Hmm.
because it's every day. It's kind of it's depressing. But that's also why it's so wonderful that companies like the ones
Yeah.
we've mentioned are able to get interviews with them right now, and the ones who are still with us. Yeah.
And really highlights the need for archival purposes. So
Yeah.
the special features, it's a plus when we can get them, but in a lot of these cases, the studios just aren't caring mostly about some of these low budget films, so they get kind of swept under the rug and forgotten about. And unless these companies are stepping up, some of them are literally going to be gone. So it's just nice to see a second chance for something like Takeout.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also really excited about Kat Ellinger's new label, Radiance. I jumped right on board and became like that full member.
Nice.
I was like, ooh, that's a hit to my bank account. But I'm looking really forward to like that already the titles they've announced. I'm like, okay, they're going to be introducing some wonderful re-releases to the world, films that are ripe for rediscovery.
Absolutely. And Fran, the main guy that used to be at Arrow that started Radiance, his personality is so perfect for just like curating taste for the world at the moment. And it's nice to see some of these that will literally have never gotten attention anywhere else suddenly be in the hands of thousands of collectors and film fans.
Yeah, most definitely.
Takeout. Lots of people have still not seen it. Can you share a quick little elevator pitch of what it's about?
Sure. It's about a day in the life of an undocumented immigrant, Chinese undocumented immigrant, living in Manhattan and dealing with a smuggling debt in which he's fallen behind on. So he wakes up in the morning to some debt collectors basically threatening him, saying that he has he has till the end of the day to get them $800, or his life is going to become very uncomfortable. and it's already quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And essentially he goes to the Chinese takeout that he works at daily and speaks to a coworker and is like, I have to figure out how to do this. He borrows a little bit of money, but about half of it, but then has to find the other $400 in tips, which is basically asking a lot, because he usually only pulls in around $90 a day on tips. So, he takes another person's shit. He takes all the deliveries. He's doing whatever he can to meet that goal. And and so that's the basic plot line, but it's through his eyes that we get to see Manhattan in a way, because we follow him on his his deliveries, and we get to peer into different apartments, seeing people's different their background, their apartments, their lives, their people from different walks of life. Sorry, I haven't done this elevator pitch in quite a while. Had to. So that's essentially it. I mean, I'm not going to reveal everything, but it's shot in a docu-style way. We shot in a real working takeout on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We shot this in 03, the end of summer of 03, June of 2003, and we really blended real life with our fiction, and with the goal of that line. So, and it really just it covers. It is political, yet not at the same time, because it's just a real objective look at Ming Ding's life, a day in the life of Ming Ding, and without really applying overt politics to it, so that hopefully it can speak to both sides of the aisle, just to really talk about the issues we have going on in this country. It's a tiny little film we shot for $3,000, never just very influenced by the Dogma 95 movement.
Yeah.
Cinema verite in general, the Dardenne brothers, and I think it's become, even though I think it's obviously covering issues that are still extremely relevant, if not more relevant today, it also is a time capsule, because you get to see Manhattan in 2003.
2003 is a super interesting time because of obviously coming so soon after 9/11, and it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect with these current generations, not only of film fans, but obviously of people being raised, because I mean, we have full-blown adults that weren't around for 9/11, which is weird to imagine at this point. But is there anything from that you felt really affected the filmmaking at that time for you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was I guess eyes were on immigration even more after, not especially in New York City after 9/11. And we work it into the script. There is a moment, there's some dialogue about how his voyage from China was affected by 9/11. It was definitely, I don't know where were you living?
I was in California, and what makes this a little more personal for me, because Takeout, I haven't really revealed this yet, and this was going to be the next thing I brought up, so this is kind of perfect time to weave it in.
Okay.
I work for immigration. I'm very high up in the government, the field of USCIS, actually, and I am such a unique grasp on a lot of these films, because I can already feel myself tearing up a little bit right now, just the way that these people have to fight to come in and try to get a better life for themselves. It is so difficult to see how they are underrepresented, treated in such a marginalized way, not only in life, but then not even having their stories told in such an appropriate manner. And Takeout is one of those weird ways where it's done beautifully. It's done in a way that is treated with realism that we just don't get from pretty much anyone else.
Oh, thank you. That's incredible to hear from your perspective. This is something that we noticed when we were doing our research and talking. We were living above a Chinese restaurant at the time, not the one that we shot at, but another one. And we got to speak with the gentlemen who were making the deliveries and realized that most of them were undocumented. But they spoke about how they were doing this for their family, how they were, chasing that American dream, because ultimately it would be a better place for them to be, and for their family to be, even though in the moment, their life was quite precarious. They had to essentially stay invisible, out of fear of deportation and prosecution. So yeah, to hear that from you means a lot, because you never know how people who are actually working within the government, what sort of empathy they have for these individuals.
Well, and I mean, you just used the word that is somehow turning into like the theme for my channel lately is your filmmaking for me is this perfect grasp of empathy with every single film, because they're delivered in such a way that is just, here are the characters and their story, and it's all up to you to decide if you relate to somebody. It's up to you to decide if they're good characters or bad characters, or if we even need those adjectives. It's up to the viewer to, come in and find something to grab onto and learn about humanity, because in so many of these other stories there's villains and antagonists, and even something like Red Rocket, there's no looking down on somebody for being an adult film star. There's no need with the Florida Project looking down on people for struggling to find a proper and steady home. It's just a beautiful way to approach filmmaking.
Well, thank you. I actually just think that's strangely missing from today's, from US film and TV.
Absolutely.
I forgot. I don't know when we made that change from, from what you just described, a more objective take on things.
Yeah.
Completely throwing judgment out the window, to a place where we're right now making these moral statements, good and bad, and it's very black and white and very puritanical. I guess this slowly crept into our culture but I guess it really hit full about 5 years ago, when we were told basically, you have to be sensitive to everybody. And well, art is supposed to be a little bit insensitive at times, because art has to be honest. Anyway, I agree with you, and that's the type of films that I'm trying to make, that I'm trying to continue to make. I have to be very independent when I make them, because even the mini studios are worried about offending, anybody now. So yeah, but I'm going to continue doing it. And the next one is the next film that we're actually prepping for right now. I think that I'm pretty sure that your listeners, just judging our sensibility and what you talk about, I'm sure we're on the same page. I think they're going to dig the next one. The next one leans a little into genre, the way I've been slowly leaning more and more into genre. But it's genre that, you would see in the 70s, cool anti-heroes.
Nice.
Again, like just, I just wanted to say one thing. I was in Middleburg, Virginia, at a film festival there, showing Red Rocket. And a woman came up to me afterwards and she goes, "I like your film, I think, but what's the takeaway?" And I'm like, "Well, you tell me." I mean, like, why am I supposed to tell you?
Right.
That would actually just be, and then I would just be preaching to you. I put in there, and I put enough in the film where I think we can discuss. You can apply your own politics to it, perhaps. We can debate. But for me, just to tell you exactly what you should be taking away from my film, would just it's meaning. That's meaningless to me. That isn't art.
I agree.
Yeah.
That also brings up, modern cinema in general. I'm glad that you are still able to pay attention to so much. It seems like you've been enjoying the hell out of Beyond Fest recently. How's all that going for you?
Beyond Fest is so wonderful. I'm so glad I live in LA because of festivals like Beyond Fest. I caught a lot, actually. I caught Joe Bigos's Christmas Bloody Christmas the other day. That was an amazing screening, because it was at the American Legion Theater, and it was packed, and
nice.
People were having a ball. I got to see Decision to Leave, Park Chan-wook, and that was in line
always
with
amazing.
Else he makes. Always amazing. Always, to the point where it's like, how did he do that? I have no idea how he did that. But the big one for me Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness. That's what I call a throw in the towel movie. It's the type of movie that makes me question why I'm even trying in this art form, because the heights he reaches with this film. And I know I'm really hyping it up, but I honestly feel that is one of the best films I've seen in decades. And I love Ruben. I love him. I've seen everything he's done. I have all of his older films. I had to get all those on import. I don't know if you've seen his older ones.
Yeah.
You can import those, and he's the best. He's the best working right now.
I don't know if it's just me as an outsider, but looking in this year, Beyond Fest seems to be a lot higher quality than the last handful of years. Not that they've been bad necessarily, but it just seems like there's a lot of hitting it out of the park this year. It's lovely to see just a really solid year.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I was there right now. I had to come up to Canada, so I only hit like the first 4 days, but great programming.
All right, so physical media. First of all, you've been into physical media, it seems like, for a long, long time. What originally got you into physical media?
Well, it goes way back. I mean, like all the way back to like, if you really want to trace it all the way back, I was getting like the Super 8 reels from the library, and sometimes purchasing them if I could afford it, way back in the 80s. And then in the 90s, there was the VHS collecting. There was the laser discs that kicked in the I guess I would say late 80s, early 90s. I guess early 90s. Right? Yeah. But I remember my roommates having at NYU, we became like our dorm room became the screening room, because we had the laser disc player. So we had and they were playing all like whatever would hit, whatever the studios put out. Like I remember Last of the Mohicans. Oh my God. The Crow, anything. Wow, we're seeing this film. And the thing about it, like even back then, it was SD. It's SD. I mean, it looked much better than VHS, but it still is SD. And yet we were thinking, this looks as good as 35. But just keeping in that, and then DVD, of course, and then Blu-ray. So and now we're at the 4Ks. Oh my God. And hopefully we can just kind of keep it there. We don't really have to. I mean, our human eyes are not going to really be able to tell the difference between a 4K and an 8K anyway. So on the televisions that we're watching them on. So I think we're okay. Let's just slow down with any more releases. Because, for example, I'm going to tell you one thing. Like this happens now a lot, but I'm seeing announcements for 4Ks, and I'm just like, but I still haven't watched the Blu-ray that I purchased on that. Like Blue Underground's Justine. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Damn it. What do I do now? At the same time, it's like, wow, Kino is putting out these 4Ks now, and they have a 4K of Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that's like one
enticing.
Of my and that will be a buy. And also, I'm really lucky that because I'm, in the industry, and I've made a few known films at this point, I'm getting a lot gifted to me, which I, with hopes that I'll promote it on social media, and I do, especially when I believe in the films. And so that's adding to my never-ending collection. I
mean, some of these labels diving in, the 4K is surprising on some of these titles, but when you get something like The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, you just kind of go, okay, yeah, it's worth it, because a title like that coming on 4K, I'm all in.
Oh yeah.
And it's nice to see a filmmaker that is a modern filmmaker being able to promote and share physical media releases for some of these that are 50 plus years old on some of the titles. Over the last couple of years, are there any just all around package of a really great presentation on a disc and a nice physical media package that made you go, damn it, I'm so glad I have physical media, because this is amazing?
Oh, well, the Second Sight stuff has been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dead. I mean, what else? The Drive. Set. I'm blanking on their other biggie.
They did The Guest was the big one. They did The Witch. They've done. I mean, they're doing The Hitcher. That's a big one for a lot of people.
My God.
And Martin coming up from George A. Romero. So.
Oh yeah, and. Yeah, I know there were legal issues with The Hitcher forever, so that's wonderful that that's finally happening. I'm just scanning in my head, like in my room. There are a few there. I love what Severin's doing with those box sets. My
Yep.
God, like the Andy Milligan one. It's just, oh God, they're incredible. They have the Carol Baker.
Literally just got this in.
Yeah, there you go. And I know what's coming up, and I don't think they've announced, so I should shut my
Not
mouth.
yet.
But like, yeah, but it's incredible stuff. And I love those guys. I love David and Carl and Andrew over there. They really put their heart into everything.
They do. Yeah.
You know what? If I know that you've had Synapse on here, right? Have
I'm
you?
not yet. They are a little distant. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if they're listening, can you? I would really like them to put out the schoolgirl report films in HD. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I appreciate that they put them out on DVD, but I started to get into them and realizing, like, oh, these are really, like, these are, again, are time capsules. I want to
Yep.
see these in better resolution. And I've been following that director Walter Booz now and trying to see. So anyway, if they're listening, please, Schoolgirl Report, and also Love in 3D, the other Walter Booz film I want to see on Blu-ray.
Synapse does really great work, and the hard part is they'll tease that they're working on something, and then because they do such great work, it's another 3.5 years. So the whole time I'm just like, come on, I'm so excited, just give it to me already.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so back to filmmaking for a minute. I feel like, and maybe this is just me, you can clarify. I feel like we haven't had a giant leap in like game-changing either methods of filmmaking or ways of telling a story in a couple decades. Is there something that you feel like is possibly on the verge of hitting and changing things up for people?
That's interesting.
Like back around like The Matrix and American Beauty, like 1999, I feel like was the last big like, oh my god, okay, movies are different now type of era.
Mm. I don't know. I'm kind of worried that people aren't seeking out
Same.
these these sort of like these indie films that are made for
Yeah.
adults anymore. They're people are going to the theaters mostly for the tentpole Marvel stuff, which is hey, look, I'm glad they're keeping the theaters alive. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad that Top Gun is keeping the theaters alive. That's wonderful. But, while you're there, guys, why don't you check out the film that is maybe your medium budget type of movie.
Right.
Because these are gonna, I can't believe there are any $20 million films made anymore because they don't seem to be making their money back unless they're horror. Now, look, it's wonderful what has happened with Smile, and I believe Barbarian made a lot of money. But these are genre films, so but I would love to see us get back to the time where we're watching dramedies that are at that budget level. It seems like all these like these sort of personal films, these films about just people, they have to be made for next to nothing now, or they have to be packed with every star in Hollywood, and that doesn't really work for me because it's just a star vehicle. So yeah, I'm sorry, I wish I had an answer to your question.
No, it's a good point, and it leads to the actual analysis of where are we at the moment, because exactly what you're saying, pretty much everything, if you look at what we have coming out that are making actual waves, it's either made for $100,000 or made for $100 million, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of ground in the middle. I mean, we're missing things like When Harry Met Sally, and with some of those big comedies where we're getting good scripts and getting, it's not like Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal were small names, but they're not demanding $25 million salaries.
Right.
So a $15 million film can go out there and make 60 million for somebody, and suddenly now they can afford to make 3 more films that are personal for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing that I'm having issues with, and I'm not in any way, every filmmaker has their own prerogative, but like, I just wish, the streaming thing, I feel, is hurting films. I really do.
Great.
It's hurting the art form. And I'll tell you why. It's not about the accessibility. Obviously, that's great. It's great that more people get to see it. It's great that it reaches more people, but that can still happen. It can still happen but as it was in the past, where it's home entertainment, it's afterthought. It's after it hits theaters. I think the theater experience, the theater release, is so important to a film because it honestly helps elevate its importance. And I know that's a weird thing because isn't it the same,
Right.
The streaming film is just as important as the theatrical. True but I'm talking about like the PR side of things, promoting it, lifting it up in the eyes of the public so that they get excited about it, so that they see it as an event. They see it as actually like they anticipate it. And therefore, if they can't make it to the theater, that's fine. They'll eventually get it on home entertainment. But it's just going directly to home entertainment. It just becomes part of this big mess of content. Nobody knows what to watch. It's not really being curated in any special way. And it's taking the auteur theory and throwing it out the window. It's like, I don't care what anybody says. The Irishman is not going to be as well regarded in the Scorsese film, canon filmography as his other films that got theatrical releases. It's going to be seen as sort of like, oh, that was that streaming movie or something, and so that's really bothering me. And it's filmmakers have to do this because that's where we're finding our budgets. That's where money is you can make an $80 million movie. You can be like your second time out and get an $80 million movie with Netflix. But again, then it's only going to live on Netflix for the rest of its life. And it's always like, it's never really, the director isn't promoted anymore. It's more about falling back into that, like, who produced it thing. And that was the whole reason for the DGA, to really be like, wait a minute, the director, this is a director. We're going to fight for this. Well, we're losing that very quickly again. And I'm not dissing Blum. I think he's great. I love the fact that he's putting out a lot of films, but like the last Blumhouse film you thought about, you don't think about the director, you think about Jason Blum. It's a Blumhouse movie. You don't know who directed that film. So that's troublesome to me. I just went on a rant.
No, it brings up a whole lot of good points. One of the biggest things that we've been talking about recently with some of these interviews is the actual experience of a film living with you, and primarily that can be because of a shared experience in something, whether it be a theater or, back in the day, like streaming films at the back of the library or something like that, where it's projected on the wall. Is there something in your past that really goes, man, that's one of my favorite memories because of the experience I had while filming or while watching this film?
Well, just the other day when I saw Triangle of Sadness, it was a sold out show at Beyond Fest. And it was like one of the best experiences. I mean, the audience participation was through the roof. It was crazy. But over the years, I mean, everything, and it happens every once in a while. Sometimes they are new films. Sometimes they're, some sort of retrospective or repertory thing. I remember okay, so just recently, and thank God it got a tiny theatrical, even was Gaspar Noé's Lux Eterna. Now, I love the fact, and you're going to have to help me here. What label put it out?
I believe it was Yellow Veil.
That was Yellow Veil, yes.
Yes.
So the box, the release, gorgeous. I mean, the sleeve and the booklet, it's a wonderful package to have. However, I'm really happy I saw it in the theater before I got that, because that was quite an experience. It's like next to Triangle of Sadness, I think it's my favorite film of 22, because it's an onslaught. He is really abusing the audience, but like in a way where, like, if you can do this, if a filmmaker has this effect on an audience, therefore, the movie has an impact. You can't deny it. And I love films that touch you, that that affect you, that you're thinking about. I don't know if everybody knows about Lux Eterna, but it's the film, he made 2 films recently, Vortex and Lux Eterna. Mm-hmm. Lux Eterna is on the short side. I don't even know. I think it just is feature film length. I think I
don't even know if it hits an hour. It's somewhere right around there.
Yeah, but anyway, we saw it at the Lumiere Cinemas in Beverly Hills, and he uses a lot of strobing They even they have warnings in the beginning of the film for possible epileptic seizures. But it's so intense, and it takes you. It's almost. I was having a out of body experience at some point, because I was just like, I looked to my wife Sam, and I was like, I don't know how much more I can take. I was like falling off of my seat, and she was just like, I know. And then people behind us, where everyone was just like kind of laughing because they didn't know how to handle this. And I'm just like, wow, this is truly an experience I will not forget anytime soon. So, and it was quite a fun film. It's really like an intense experiment in a way. So anyway, that was one. A few years back, I saw Lady Terminator. Agva has that 35 that goes around. Yes. That was the best experience ever, because I had some edibles in me, and I was just like,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, and then, going way back, I mean, I remember going way back. Like, the first time I was affected by seeing a film in the theater was Star Wars. I'm dating myself right now, but I was 6 years old. This is when parents could literally drop 6-year-olds off at the
theater. Something like Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah, but I went with my older cousin. He was 10, I was 6. They dropped us off at the somewhere in Morris County, New Jersey, to see Star Wars, and I just remember coming out going, that's the best film ever made, and they will never make a better film than that. And then, of course, the next year, Close Encounters came out, and I'm like, that's better than Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I've been at parties. I brought my birthday party to one of I forgot how old I was, but we went to The Incredible Shrinking Woman. Wow. And it was mostly because I loved that in the beginning of the film, when the I don't know if you remember Incredible Shrinking Woman, but there's that part where the cheese whiz on the crackers in front of the supermarket, and this one woman goes, oh, this tastes like shit. Well, I was like 7 years old and going, oh my god, she said shit, I gotta bring my birthday party and see. And I remember that event was wonderful. That was like, a theater full of cheering kids. So yeah, I mean, like, look, this is my livelihood. This is my life. So obviously I have a lot of experiences like this. I was a projectionist, when I was 17 years old in Manville, New Jersey. So I worked the whole 35 millimeter thing. I got to work behind the scenes there. So yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's fantastic. And to see the journey somebody can take for, I mean, obviously with something like being a projectionist, you're handling the physical media, and just doing that can literally bring a level of appreciation that nowadays, I mean, streaming is never going to give anybody. We're at the point too where there's a psychological phenomenon called analysis paralysis, and when you see all of these options and you just like, well, fine, like, fuck, I'll choose this one just because it's been staring at me. That's something the algorithm chose, but there's a gem on the next page that if you actually would have watched it, it might have changed your life.
Analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's basically like couch surfing. You're literally sitting here, I don't know what to watch. I'm going to go through all the channels, and you do that for 3 hours. A lot of collectors like us, maybe we'll do it with our collection. What do I watch tonight? There's 5,000 releases. Yeah. Which one do I choose? Yeah. So it gets tough. And with streaming, now there's 19 different streaming services that people have, and how do you pick which one to watch, what title on there to watch? It's losing it to the point where there's no power behind it.
I completely agree. Sometimes the way we choose it is almost like sort of like just a blind pointing, I do appreciate Mubi though. Mubi does that nice curation where you just get one film a day for 30 days. I really like that. But no, I agree with you. And also what really is like, I know you can probably turn this off or figure a way around it, but I haven't, and most laymen don't. It's really insulting from some of the big streamers where it cuts to the credits, and less than 5 seconds into the credits, the movie goes up to the upper left corner, and it shows you what's coming next with an ad, and you have to literally grab your remote in time and try to go up to that box and highlight it so you can see the credits before you lose that, because you only have like 10 seconds to do it. It's so insulting to filmmakers. I can't even believe they're allowed to do that, actually. actually. That should be in the contract with like licensing your film to streamers. They're not allowed to do that. But and that, yeah. So, and also one more little gripe with streaming. I pay the premium with Netflix. You know, that like that 4K ultra thing that costs an additional whatever. I'm still getting it. They're still buffering all the freaking time. And that slow-mo thing where you're like, wait, is that the film slow-mo, post slow-mo, or is that just catching up? Really annoying shit.
There's a lot that we could just gripe on all day. One of the biggest things, they're charging you a premium for 4K, but if you pay attention to any of these that are in 4K on Netflix and you have the disc, there's so much more compression on streaming, and people are just like, no, this looks amazing, because when they, you know, zoom in on somebody's face, you can see some pores. It's not the same thing. You got banding on all the dark colors in the corner. You've got so much that on a disc, these people will literally never be able to see because they're not willing to go into physical media, and it's tough.
Yeah, you got it. It's very true.
And the credits thing, I mean, that's insulting not only for the filmmakers, which obviously it is, because a lot of those people gave up their life to do some of these films, but imagine you're watching a movie and it's got a really poignant ending, and the moment it ends, just boom, watch the, you know, the next piece of shit movie that's being advertised next. Why? I'm sitting here like on the verge of like, I'm depressed now because of this film, but I'm being drawn into the next Marvel movie. Like,
I know. It's really sad. It's really sad. Yep.
Anyways, I'm so glad that you're on our side. I'm so glad that you're continuing to make films like this, and to be as respectful with your time as I can. I hope someday we can have you back again, because this has been incredible. I love your work, and I just appreciate you being a part of the community.
How about we do this when my next okay, so I have 4-Letter Words, which is my first film.
Yeah.
Not a great movie, by the way. It was a very movie. I was still finding my way. But I'm really happy that it is actually getting out there, because it shows my roots, and
exactly.
It isn't as bad as maybe I thought it was. But so anyway, so that's my first film. That's coming out sometime in 23. And then Prince of Broadway, which was my follow-up to Takeout. That has full deluxe restoration as well. And so that will be also having a re-release in 23. So when one of them hits, I would love to be back on.
Perfect. That would be amazing. Sean, thank you. Be safe. Hopefully we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you. Keep fighting the fight.
Every single day.